Well, welcome back. We're going to continue our Helping After Harvey coverage. And of course, FEMA is a huge part of the recovery process here.
No doubt. And joining us now is Peter Herrick Jr. from FEMA. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
To start off, have the claims, have they slowed down at all? Are they picking up? And how fast are people receiving their money now?
Yeah, so on the registration side, we're seeing the numbers slow down, which isn't surprising. We're up to 776,000 people that have registered for FEMA assistance. But the change from yesterday to today was still 7,000 people. And so it's slowing down, but 7,000 people a day is still a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when we start to look at how quickly we're getting assistance out to people, we've talked about this before, a lot of that is based on how quickly we can get an inspector out to see someone. And initially our estimate was 7 to 10 days, which is very normal in a disaster, but as that number has continued to grow, we're now out to about 30 days for people to see an inspector. I do want to highlight people should still be doing the cleanup process, document their damage, don't wait for that inspector to come out, because we know how quickly the mold will grow.
See, that's interesting because I've heard two schools of thought. People are very concerned that maybe if they don't have an inspector putting their eyes on it and looking at it, that pictures might not suffice and they may not get as much money as they possibly need. But you're saying it's okay.
Yeah, so our inspectors are trained to be able to analyze that stuff from the pictures and stuff. We very clearly don't want people to wait because the damage is going to be greater, and there's a huge public health concern if they don't start cleaning up. So they have a way of figuring out what that damage looks like, but if they still want to highlight things for the inspector, that's the conversation they can have when the inspector shows up and say, hey, listen, here are some of the other things that we pulled out and some of the other documentation that we have.
Is there a difference in time as far as getting money quickly for like incidentals and basic necessities and then money for the home? Do you try to get that first money out first?
Yeah, so we've got the $500 critical needs assistance that's going out within, I think, about 48 hours for most people. And we can also help with some of the rental assistance or the transitional sheltering program, which is that hotel program, and that doesn't need to wait for the inspector to come out. The stuff that the inspector will look at is the damage to the contents of the home and the building of the home and that assistance.
Okay.
And the flood map that we've been seeing, FEMA's flood predictive map, apparently failed to show like 75% of the flooding. Is that correct? Is it now changing how FEMA will approach their claims at all based on perhaps some areas that weren't expecting this?
So we've always encouraged people, whether they're in a high-risk zone, a low-risk zone, or they're not shown in the flood map, to have flood insurance.
Okay.
That's a huge part of the recovery for a lot of people. The cap on the grant that we have is still $33,300, and there's nothing that we can do about that. That's law. We've seen the study. We're still looking it over and analyzing and stuff. But we introduced new flood maps for like the Harris County area, for example, in the last 4 years, which is outside the scope of that study. And we're trying to make sure that we're having those conversations and updating that information as quickly as we can. But a lot of that's contingent on funding. The nation's a very big country, and we're doing it as quickly as we can.
All right, Peter Herrick with FEMA. We appreciate you coming in and checking in with us and giving us the latest update. It really helps our viewers, so thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Well,